You're now listening to All Hog Sports, covering all Arkansas Razorback sports, such as football, basketball, baseball, and much more. Now, here's your host for today's show, Sam Stimson.
The battle for the boot is on this week, and it's two different storylines for both of these teams, LSU and Arkansas, compared to last year. We'll preview that matchup, get into the history, and my prediction for this game. But if you like what you're hearing on today's show, please follow my Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at All Hog Sports Pod. You can also find my website at allhogsports.com. And also, I just opened up a voice call-in line at 479-222-2480. So call in to that line after the game and let me know your thoughts on it, and I will include them in the Monday recap episode. Again, that is 479-222-2480. But with the game day information, as normal, it is the battle for the boot, a rivalry between Arkansas and LSU. It's gone back a long time. It's November 21st at 11 a.m. on SEC Network, and it's going to be 70 degrees, partly cloudy. It's also going to be at Fayetteville, so it's going to be a bit easier for the Hogs, even though there will only be 22% capacity at Razorback Stadium.
Now, for the Arkansas Razorbacks.
Head coach Sam Pittman has returned to the team as of Wednesday. This is great for the Razorbacks, as he's a leader on this team, and he loves Arkansas football, the fans, the coaches around him, the players, and just the whole state. It's really awesome to see a guy like him represent this Razorback football program, and having him on the sidelines is a huge plus for the Razorbacks. But Traylon Smith needs to be starting as the running back one. The offense plays so much better when Traylon Smith is running back one. Traylon Smith has 78 carries for 441 yards and 1 touchdown. He's quick, fast, and explosive, and he just fits this Briles-style offense. Rakeem Boyd's talent cannot be denied. He was a beast last year against a lot of teams in the SEC, and you look at the offensive line back then, under Chad Morrison was horrible, and Boyd was still really good. Boyd is a bigger back, so it's going to allow us to use him in 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, situations like that where we need him more. But to have Traylon Smith on the field as like the main running back on like 1st and 10 and other plays like that is in the best interest of this team. Briles' offense works so much better with quicker and faster guys. It's a quick, fast-paced tempo offense that we're seeing throughout college football right now. And the RPO and all these different things just fit so much better with Traylon Smith. I think Traylon Smith needs to be out there to start the game. However, if Traylon Smith is not out there and Boyd is out there, I trust that Briles is going to make the right decision because he's been doing that. If Boyd hasn't been cooking, he put Smith out there. Smith hasn't been cooking, he put Boyd back out there. So I don't think this is a really big point, but I think for the best interest of this team, Smith needs to be out there starting because Briles' play calling has been really good the last few games. There hasn't been too many trick calls outside of the first half against Tennessee. We've kind of quit the double reverses or made them work. So either way, they're fine. I mean, if they work and we get yards, sure, keep doing it. But if we don't, just take them off the playbook. And that's what Briles has done, you know. So it's great to see the offense improve very quickly because of Felipe Franks. Franks has been playing really good all season. He's been on it recently. If you take away the 2 interceptions against Georgia, which is the best defense in the SEC, he only has 1 interception. Total, though, he has 16 touchdowns with 1,678 passing yards. He's been sneaky in the pocket, too, as I talked about on the Florida recap. He's a really good athlete, and he's been able to run out of the pocket if the offensive line collapsed, because the offensive line was giving around 2 seconds in the Florida game, which obviously makes him go with his first read. So there's certain situations where he may throw the ball or target the wrong guy because of the offensive line collapsing on him, but he's done really good to move outside the pocket, throw the ball away, make good judgment, as interceptable passes have been incredibly low for him, and interceptions have been the same way. Losing Devon Warren, though, it takes a big hit on this entire offense, and Franks. When Treylon Burks was out, Warren became almost the number 1 target for Franks. This is a connection that has been established from the get-go as Burks was hurt earlier in the season, and this is hurting the whole offense, not because of just how the other guys, the wide receiver core is good, don't get me wrong, but anytime you have a guy like Warren, who's been really good this season for the Razorbacks, go out for the season with an ACL tear, it's going to hurt him a ton. I would expect him to return with his 6th year of eligibility, though, because all the players got COVID eligibility from the NCAA, so he will probably turn back next year healthier and probably a better athlete, as well as he'll have more time to develop with coaches and things like that. It says coaching staff is really, really impressive. But Trey Knox is going to have to step up. He's in a kind of sophomore slump right now, but I would expect him to step up in a bigger role as he's the wide receiver 3 on this team. I think he's going to show how he's been playing last year and things like that in this game as well. I think getting him working is going to be great for the Razorbacks, as he's a beast and we definitely don't want him to transfer, as he could produce on the field and possibly be a starter going forward with this Razorback team. But obviously Treylon Burks and Mike Woods have been good for the Razorbacks all year, and getting Mike Woods open and having him get a long touchdown is important for this game because we were able to do that against Florida, and we were kind of in it at certain times because of that. So if the offensive line can hold up, Woods can create separations because he's quick and explosive, throw the ball down deep because Franks can throw that deep ball really, really nice, get it to Woods, and it's a touchdown. That happened twice against Florida. Needs to happen against LSU. Not needs, it should happen against LSU. After the Texas A&M game, I kind of looked at the defense and just saw them get picked apart by a good quarterback in Kellen Mond. Same thing happened against Florida. And against Texas A&M, they rebounded. When they played Tennessee, they had a great defensive performance afterwards. And the main thing is we need to create meaningful turnovers. In the closing minutes of the Tennessee game, we got turnovers, which allowed us to basically seal the deal and win the football game. And turnovers happen in like garbage time against Florida, but those don't really matter. Turnovers against Ole Miss won us that game. So getting turnovers in key moments is important for this Razorback team, as I've said that all year because of how good this offense is when it gets turnovers, because it's 4th in the SEC in defensive efficiency. But if you look at other things like points per game at 31 and then rushing defense at 183 yards per game, it's just not there quite yet. So having turnovers makes the defense run so much better and efficient. Rushing defense, though, has not been too good, 103 yards per game, like I said earlier. So I would expect a good performance from Morgan, Poole, and Jalen Catalan, because all of these guys have been stopping the run against Tennessee, Florida, and other schools, because they are big, good tacklers, big hitters, and they come in and knock down the player, get the tackle at the end of the day. So getting them to have a big role in these offenses, most of these guys are leaders on the team, is important, and I'd expect them to have a bigger game because I don't think LSU is going to go with the passing as much because their quarterback, Miles Brennan, is injured. But I would expect a ton of rushing from LSU, so those guys are going to have to step up and be on their best. I think another guy who we could see emerge into a good role is defensive back Monteric Brown. Monteric Brown was injured at the beginning of the year, and he's played in 3 games since his injury against Florida, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. He really hasn't done much, though, but 2 of those times he's facing elite top 5 SEC quarterbacks, so it makes sense why he really wasn't playing at the good level that we've seen him the last few years. So I think getting him to get back in his routine is definitely possible against LSU and possibly pick off the true freshman TJ Finley. That's an opportunity that Brown should make and definitely could submit himself back into one of the better SEC corners by putting himself out there on the market and showing, hey, my injury early in the season didn't affect me at all. I'm the guy on this team. I'm the best corner.
Versus
the LSU Tigers. They are 2-3, and they are 52nd in strength of schedule, so not a good record and not a good strength of schedule. Those 2 wins are off of South Carolina and Vanderbilt. And if you look at some common opponents for the LSU Tigers, Mississippi State, they were the first team that was like exposed by the air raid, and Arkansas beat Mississippi State after that game. But this is a whole different team than last year's LSU Tigers. They lost so many guys like Joe Burrow. Jamar Chase opted out of the season. There's so many coaches that left too, like Joe Brady and Dave Arnada. So this is a different LSU team, as they are not that same national championship contender team when we went to play them in Louisiana last year and ultimately got whooped as they went on to whoop everybody and win the national title. I don't think we'll ever see a dominating performance like that within the next 5 years. That LSU team was so good, and they had so many good players and coaches that are making big impacts in the NFL. You look at Joey Burrow, Jefferson, so many guys on that team are generational talent, and we don't have to play them this year, so it's going to be easier for the Razorbacks. Now, obviously, Miles Brennan is out right now with an injury, so he won't be playing this game. And so true freshman TJ Finley will be playing, as the other true freshman, Max Johnson, was quarantined due to COVID-19 policies and things like that. But TJ Finley had a really good game against South Carolina. However, when he went to play Auburn, he didn't do so good and was benched for Max Johnson. So they're going to roll with TJ Finley as the starter. TJ Finley, though, on the season is 30 out of 45 with 408 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. So it's going to be easier for the Razorbacks because Miles Brennan, even though he doesn't have Joe Brady, is a really good quarterback. And if you look at those first 3 games against Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, and Missouri, he played pretty good in those. So not having Max Johnson be able to start this game also because, you have 2 options and 2 freshmen, but when one of them's not practicing for a while, it doesn't make sense to put him out there because if the other guy's taking QB1 reps, you just want to roll with the guy you've been working on with practice. Because of COVID-19 policies, things have changed up throughout the whole entire college football world. Like wide receiver Jamar Chase opted out. However, don't count out Terrace Marshall Jr. He's a beast, even though Miles Brennan is on the team. Joey Burrow's not on this team. He has 31 catches for 540 yards and 9 touchdowns. That's a big stat, 9 touchdowns. You won't see many SEC wide receivers with a high number like that. So when we get into the red zone situations, this LSU offense like to rely on Terrace Marshall Jr., so to get him guarded by somebody like Monteric Brown or Hudson Clark, if Clark is playing at the top of his game, is important. But tight end Eric Gilbert is another guy to watch as he has 22 catches for 259 yards. But as I talked about earlier, Arkansas's running defense hasn't been that good, but the pass defense has. So I would expect the pass to kind of get shut down, as I don't think Finley's going to be able to pick apart this Razorback defense like guys have in Trask and Mond. So I'd expect them to result in a running game. LSU is averaging 119 yards rushing per game with Emory Jr. and Davis Price and a number of other guys. So having 2 established running backs is going to be easier for them as they can sub them out, and Arkansas is going to have to get used to the way those guys run. So I honestly would say LSU could put up 150, 200 rushing yards just because I think they're going to go to the rushing game, especially if they get ahead early. But Bo Pelini's the defensive coordinator for the Tigers, and I don't even know if you can call him a defensive coordinator. Same thing like John Chavis. I mean, both of those guys are not good defensive coordinators at all. 33 points per game allowed from this LSU Tigers defense, 478 yards of offense allowed, 335, those being in the air, 143 on the ground. So to get Franks going in this game is going to be a lot easier as we're not placing a pretty good pass defense. So he'll be able to get things going as he has done multiple games this season. 12th in the SEC in efficiency, though, and they were really the only team to get exposed in the air raid. They gave up 44 points and 600-plus yards to KJ Costello in that game, and it kind of scared the SEC and thought the air raid was legit until Arkansas came in, shut them down, and beat Mississippi State 21-14. That was such a good win for this program as they lost 21 straight, and I feel like a lot of things flipped around for this Razorback team and went uphill after that game. And after LSU lost to Mississippi State, a lot of things flipped around and went down for this LSU team. So for the Razorbacks to get a big win there against Mississippi State helped this program, while LSU lost and didn't really help them at all. You look at the other common opponent, though, Auburn. Arkansas should have beat Auburn 30-28, but we don't talk about that as technically the final score was 31-30 because those guys down there in Birmingham, Alabama, love them some Auburn Tigers football, so Auburn won that game, but whatever. Auburn steamrolled LSU, though, winning 48-11. So if you look at the margins of victory there, even if you want to count Auburn as a win, because I guess that's what the books say, Arkansas lost by a point, LSU got demolished. So for the Arkansas to kind of have that edge going in on should have beating 2 of the common opponents, I think we'll give them a little bit of confidence and just make it easier for the Razorbacks because I feel like they have the edge in this game, and they really haven't had the edge in a ton of SEC games, as this is the first game Arkansas is favored in, but I'll get to that later. A couple players to watch out for in this LSU defense, though. Cornerback Eli Ricks has 3 interceptions, and linebacker Jabril Cox has 31 total tackles with 1 interception and 1 sack. But the injury report for this game, Arkansas is dealing with a couple COVID issues as 2 staff members and 1 player has tested positive. We do not know what player that was or who around those guys were quarantined or not, so we'll see that on game day, but no new information out of that. Like I said earlier, wide receiver Davion Warren is out for the season with an ACL tear. Tight end Hudson Henry is looking to return after missing last game with a leg injury, And offensive linemen Book, Slimmer, and Noah Gatlin have missed the last few games, and they're looking